I'm Heather Wilson, 29, working as a nurse in Seattle when my world imploded with a single phone call. Miss Wilson, you're 3 months behind on your mortgage payments, the bank representative said. What mortgage? I'd never owned property in my life. The amount? $623,000. My stomach dropped when I saw the signature. Perfectly forged, but not mine. The address belonged to my sister Amanda's beautiful new home. Tonight was our bi-weekly family dinner. And inside my bag sat a police report. That would change everything. If you're watching this from somewhere around the world, I'd love to know where. Drop your location in the comments. Hit subscribe and stay tuned for the moment I exposed the betrayal that shattered my family forever. Before everything fell apart, I had what I considered a pretty good life. Nothing extraordinary, but satisfying in its simplicity. I'd been a registered nurse at Seattle Grace Hospital for 6 years, working in the pediatric ward. There's something incredibly fulfilling about helping sick children, even on the hardest days when the outcomes aren't what we hope for. My colleagues were like family, and I'd built a reputation as someone reliable, someone who would pick up extra shifts when needed, someone who cared deeply. My apartment was small but comfortable, a 1-bedroom in Ballard that I decorated with secondhand furniture and plants, lots of plants. My friends joked that my place was more greenhouse than home, but those green companions gave me peace after long, chaotic hospital shifts. Then there was my actual family. My parents, David and Carol Wilson, still lived in the same suburban home where my sister and I grew up. Dad had retired from his accounting job 2 years ago, and Mom continued teaching 4th grade, claiming she'd retire when the kids stopped being interesting. They were good people, honest, hardworking, and devoted to their daughters. And Amanda? My older sister by 3 years. I'd spent my whole life looking up to her. As children, she was the confident one, the achiever, the one who made friends effortlessly while I hung back, shy and uncertain. She was homecoming queen, valedictorian, and captain of the debate team. I was the quiet, studious one who found my voice only after college. But there was never any resentment between us, at least none that I acknowledged. I was proud of her accomplishments and grateful for her protection when kids tried to bully me in middle school. As adults, we'd remained close despite our different paths. Amanda went into real estate and built a successful career selling luxury properties around Seattle. She married Brian Parker, a financial advisor, 5 years ago. They made a striking couple, both tall, athletic, and perpetually tanned from their frequent vacations to tropical destinations. Their social media pages were catalogs of carefully curated perfection, sunset cocktails, charity galas, and matching tennis outfits. Meanwhile, I remained single, focused on my career and the occasional disastrous date that my coworkers insisted on setting up. Our lives couldn't have been more different, but we still met for coffee every few weeks, and our family gathered for dinner twice a month. Amanda would sometimes make subtle comments about my modest lifestyle or suggest investment opportunities one couldn't possibly afford, but I chalked it up to her wanting the best for me. 8 months ago, Amanda and Brian moved from their downtown condo to a stunning Craftsman in Queen Anne, one of Seattle's most prestigious neighborhoods. When they invited the family over for a housewarming, I remembered feeling a twinge of envy. As I walked through the meticulously renovated rooms with their Viking appliances and sweeping views of the city and Puget Sound, Amanda had given me the grand tour, pointing out custom features and designer names I didn't recognize. "Someday you'll have this too, sis," she'd said, squeezing my shoulder. "You just need to aim higher." The day everything changed started like any other Tuesday. I was halfway through my shift, helping a 7-year-old boy named Tyler change his bandages. After an appendectomy when my phone vibrated in my pocket. I normally wouldn't answer during patient care, but I'd been waiting for news about my elderly neighbor who'd been hospitalized the previous night. I excused myself after ensuring Tyler was comfortable. "Hello, this is Heather," I answered, stepping into the hallway. "Milson, this is Craig Donovan from Washington Mutual Bank. I'm calling about your missed mortgage payments. We've sent several notices and I'm afraid if we don't resolve this soon, we'll have to begin foreclosure proceedings." I felt a flutter of confusion. "I'm sorry. There must be some mistake. I don't have a mortgage. I rent my apartment." The banker's voice took on a slightly condescending tone. "Miss Wilson, according to our records, you took out a mortgage for $623,000 in January for a property on Highland Drive. You made payments for the first 3 months, but we haven't received anything since April." My mind raced. Highland Drive. That sounded familiar. Wasn't that Amanda's street? "This is a mistake," I insisted, my voice rising enough that a passing nurse gave me a concerned look. "I've never purchased property. My credit isn't even good enough for a mortgage that size. I'm a nurse, not a surgeon." There was a pause. Then the application shows an annual income of $192,000 and a credit score of $782 at the time of application. We have all the documentation, Ms. Wilson, including your signature on multiple forms. Perhaps you could come into the branch to review the paperwork. The conversation continued in this surreal vein for several more minutes before I agreed to visit the bank after my shift. I returned to Tyler's room on autopilot, my mind spinning with possibilities. A clerical error, identity theft, but the address. That couldn't be coincidence. At the bank, Richard Peterson, the branch manager, laid out a folder of documents that made my stomach sink further with each page. Loan application, income verification, credit check authorization, closing papers, all bearing what appeared to be my signature. And there it was in black and white. The property address matched Amanda's new house. Could I get copies of all of this? I asked, my voice sounding distant even to my own ears. Richard hesitated. Technically, these are already your copies, but given the circumstances, I can make duplicates. He studied my face. Ms. Wilson, if you didn't apply for this mortgage, I strongly suggest you contact the police. This appears to be identity theft and possibly fraud. I nodded numbly, but inside a voice was screaming. Not just any identity theft. My sister. My own sister had stolen my identity to buy her dream house. The days following my visit to the bank became a blur of anxiety, disbelief, and methodical investigation. I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. Unable to focus on patient care when my own life was unraveling. My apartment, once my sanctuary, now felt like a cage where I paced endlessly, alternating between rage and confusion. Could there be another explanation? Perhaps Amanda had made some terrible administrative mistake. Maybe she'd intended to use her own name, but somehow mine got entered incorrectly. But as I stared at the documents Richard had copied for me, that hopeful theory crumbled. This was deliberate. Someone had carefully forged my signature on multiple documents. Someone had provided my social security number, birth date, and employment history. Someone who knew me intimately. My first call was to Equifax. The customer service representative sounded bored until I explained the situation. Then her tone shifted to practice sympathy. Let me pull up your credit report, Miss Wilson. The clicking of a keyboard, then a pause. There are several accounts here that appear to have been opened in the past year. The mortgage is the largest, but there's also a home equity line of credit for $150,000. 3 credit cards with limits between $20,000 and $30,000 each. And a personal loan for $45,000. I felt physically ill. All of these are fraudulent. I didn't open any of them. I understand, ma'am. I'm initiating a fraud alert on your account immediately and I'll send you instructions for filing a formal dispute for each account. You should also contact the other credit bureaus right away. By the end of that day, I'd spoken to all 3 major credit bureaus, placed fraud alerts, and discovered that my credit score, once a respectable 724, had plummeted to 546 due to the missed mortgage payments and maxed out credit cards I knew nothing about. The next morning, I met with Diane Schwartz, a financial advisor recommended by a colleague. Her office was warm and inviting, but nothing could ease the knot of dread in my stomach as I slid the bank documents across her desk. This is definitely identity theft, she confirmed after reviewing everything. And I have to say, it's quite sophisticated. Whoever did this knew exactly what information would be needed to pass verification checks. It was my sister, I said, speaking the accusation aloud for the first time. The house is hers. She's living in it right now. Diane's expression shifted from professional concern to genuine shock. That complicates things. Family fraud is unfortunately common, but it presents unique challenges both legally and emotionally. What should I do? Legally, it's clear you need to file a police report. Without that, the banks won't recognize you as a victim rather than a participant. But I understand if you're hesitant to potentially send a family member to jail. I was hesitant. Despite the mounting evidence, I still couldn't fully process that Amanda, my protector, my role model, would do this to me. There had to be more to the story. Before going to the police, I decided to gather more information. I contacted a handwriting expert named Marcus. Brian ended up paying cash, but I overheard them arguing about it in the parking lot. He said something like, "We can't keep doing this. The house was risky enough." The house? My house according to the bank. I also discovered multiple credit accounts opened in my name, all linked to online statements with the contact email being a slight variation of my actual address. heatherwilson883@gmail.com instead of my real heatherwilson1993@gmail.com. Easy to miss in verification processes, but clearly deliberate. Every new piece of information felt like another weight on my chest, making it harder to breathe, harder to deny the truth. My sister, whom I trusted completely, had stolen my identity to finance a lifestyle she couldn't afford. She'd thrown me under the bus without hesitation, leaving me to deal with the financial and legal fallout when it all inevitably collapsed. After a week of investigation, I could no longer avoid the necessary step. With a heart that felt like lead, I drove to the Seattle Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit and asked to file a report for identity theft and fraud. The Seattle Police Department's Financial Crimes Office was nothing like the dramatic police stations from TV shows. Instead, it occupied part of a nondescript municipal building with fluorescent lighting and outdated furniture. I sat in a hard plastic chair for nearly an hour before a detective could see me, clutching a folder containing all the evidence I'd gathered. Heather Wilson, a woman in her 40s with short brown hair and tired eyes, approached. I'm Detective Rachel Thompson. Sorry about the wait. Follow me. She led me to a small interview room with a table, 3 chairs, and absolutely nothing else except a wall-mounted camera in the corner. Detective Thompson noticed me eyeing it. Standard procedure, she explained. Helps protect both you and us. Now, I understand you're here to report identity theft. Yes, I said, my voice smaller than I intended. By my sister. Something flickered in Detective Thompson's expression. Surprise, maybe even sympathy before her professional demeanor returned. I see. That's unfortunately more common than you might think. Tell me everything from the beginning. For the next 2 hours, I walked her through the whole story. The bank call, the mortgage I never applied for, the credit cards and loans opened in my name, the house my sister was living in purchased with my stolen identity. Detective Thompson took detailed notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. She seemed particularly interested in the timeline and how Amanda might have obtained my personal information. Do you share any financial accounts, safety deposit boxes? Has she ever lived with you as an adult? No to all of those, but we're close. Or I thought we were. She's been to my apartment countless times. My important documents are in a file cabinet in my home office, not locked. I felt foolish admitting this. I never thought I needed to protect myself from my own sister. Detective Thompson's expression softened slightly. No one expects this from family. It's not your fault. After I finished my account, she leaned back in her chair. Miss Wilson, I want to be clear about something. Filing this report means we will investigate fully, and if the evidence supports your claims, your sister could face serious criminal charges. Identity theft and mortgage fraud are felonies. She could go to prison. Are you prepared for that? The question hit me like a physical blow. Was I prepared to be responsible for sending Amanda to prison, for destroying her life, her marriage, her career? I thought about our childhood, how she taught me to ride a bike, helped me with homework, stood up for me against bullies. I thought about our parents who would be devastated. But then I remembered my ruined credit score. The $623,000 debt in my name, the violation of trust so profound I could barely comprehend it. Yes, I said finally. I need to protect myself. If she faces consequences for what she did, that's her responsibility, not mine. Detective Thompson nodded. I understand this is difficult. We'll handle the investigation with discretion, but I can't promise confidentiality, especially if charges are filed. These cases become public record. I understand. She pushed a form across the table. This is the official identity theft report. Read it carefully before signing. As I signed the report, my real signature, not the forged one on the mortgage documents, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The machinery of justice was now in motion, and I couldn't stop it, even if I wanted to. Stephanie was waiting for me in the lobby. I'd asked her to come for moral support, knowing I'd need a friendly face after taking such a momentous step. How did it go? She asked, pulling me into a hug. About as well as accusing your sister of felony fraud can go, I replied, attempting humor, but hearing the tremor in my voice. You did the right thing, Heather. What she did was unforgivable. We went to a nearby coffee shop where Stephanie listened as it processed my swirling emotions. The detectives said they'll begin investigating right away. They'll contact the bank, subpoena records, maybe even interview Amanda. How do you think she'll react? I stared into my untouched latte. She'll deny it at first. Amanda's always been good at lying when cornered. Then she'll try to justify it somehow. Make it seem like she was doing me a favor or had every intention of paying everything back. Do you think she did intend to pay it back? I mean, I considered this maybe in some abstract. But the practical reality, she and Brian were already missing payments. They never had a plan beyond using my identity to get what they wanted in the moment. 2 days later, Detective Thompson called with an update. We've confirmed your suspicions, Ms. Wilson. The mortgage application was submitted online using your Personal information, but from an IP address traced to your sister's previous residence. We're also investigating her husband's potential involvement. Financial crimes like this are rarely committed by just one person in a household, Brian. You have a gift for this, Margot, the organization's director, told me after observing one of my counseling sessions with a newly identified victim. You're compassionate without sugarcoating the reality of what they're facing. This work gave purpose to my pain, transforming a devastating personal experience into knowledge that could help others. I couldn't undo what Amanda had done, but I could use it to make someone else's journey a little less lonely, a little more navigable. Moving to my new apartment had been a practical necessity. The lease on my old place had ended, and I needed something I could afford on a budget strained by legal fees and credit counseling costs. But it became a symbolic fresh start as well. I filled it with plants as always, but also with new furniture that held no memories of my pre-betrayal life. I installed a small home office with a locking file cabinet for important documents. Not because I expected another family member to steal my identity, but because the experience had taught me the value of prudent protection. When Amanda had been incarcerated for nearly a year, I received a letter that stood out from her previous attempts at communication. Unlike her earlier apologies, which had focused on her remorse and suffering, this one acknowledged the specific harms she had caused me. I've been working with a therapist here, she wrote. She's helping me understand that true accountability means recognizing not just that I did something wrong, but exactly how my actions hurt you. I stole more than your identity, Heather. I stole your sense of security, your trust in family, your belief in my love for you. I can undo that harm, but I want you to know that I see it clearly now that I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for a response. I just want you to know that I understand what I destroyed and I will live with that knowledge for the rest of my life. I didn't respond immediately, but I kept the letter, rereading it periodically as I processed my feelings. The acknowledgement of specific harms felt different from her earlier blanket apologies. More genuine, more complete, more aware. Around this time, I made a decision that surprised even me. Using some of the restitution money that had finally begun arriving from Amanda and Brian's seized assets, I put a deposit on a small house with a generous yard, perfect for an expanded garden. The irony wasn't lost on me. My sister's crime had ultimately led to me achieving the home ownership she had fraudulently claimed in my name. The day I signed the legitimate mortgage papers, a moment that should have been purely joyful, I experienced an unexpected wave of emotion. Sitting in the loan officer's office, reviewing documents remarkably similar to those that had been forged in my name, I felt a strange closing of a circle. Is everything all right, Ms. Wilson? The loan officer asked, noticing my hesitation. Yes, I said, signing my actual name to a loan I had chosen for a house I could afford. Everything is fine. Better than fine, actually. Taking ownership of my new home became a powerful act of reclamation. I painted the walls colors I loved, planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, and invited friends for a housewarming party. My first real celebration since before the identity theft discovery. Stephanie brought champagne and a doormat that read "Not today." Identity thieves' dark humor that made me laugh despite myself. My parents came too, bringing a houseplant and awkward good wishes. They were trying in their way to support this new chapter while still maintaining their relationship with Amanda. It's a lovely home, Heather, my mother said, hugging me tightly. We're so proud of you for buying a house, I asked. For everything, my father clarified. For how you've handled all of this with dignity and strength. It wasn't complete healing. That would take years more if it ever fully arrived. But it was acknowledgement, and that mattered. 2 weeks after my housewarming, I did something I'd been considering for months. I drove to the federal correctional institution where Amanda was serving her sentence and added my name to her visitors list. I wasn't ready to see her yet, but I wanted the option available when and if that day came. As I continue rebuilding my life, I've come to understand that healing isn't a destination, but a process. Some days I feel strong and forward-looking. Others, the betrayal feels fresh and raw. I've learned to accept both realities as part of my journey. What happened between my sister and me is a story with no neat ending, no perfect resolution. Family bonds, once broken by betrayal, can never be completely restored to their original form. But they can transform into something new, something more honest, perhaps with clearly established boundaries and carefully rebuilt trust. I don't know if Amanda and I will ever reclaim anything resembling our former closeness. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust her again, but I know that I've survived the worst betrayal I could imagine, and I've emerged stronger, wiser, and more self-reliant than before. If there's a lesson in all of this, it's that trust should be treated as the precious resource it is. Given carefully, guarded appropriately, and withdrawn when necessary for self-protection. Love and trust aren't the same thing, a distinction I never fully understood until now. I can love my sister while acknowledging that she violated my trust in ways that may never be fully repaired. This experience has taught me that family loyalty has limits and should have limits. That standing up for yourself, even against those you love, isn't selfish, but necessary. That forgiveness, if it comes, must follow accountability, not replace it. I'm still writing my story, still finding my way forward. But I know this much. I refuse to be a victim in silence. I refuse to sacrifice my financial future to protect someone who hadn't protected me. I refuse to accept betrayal as the price of family peace. And in those refusals, I found my strength. What about you? Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you handle it? And what boundaries did you establish afterward? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this account has helped you feel less alone in your own experience of family betrayal, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel for more real-life stories of resilience and recovery. Share with someone who might be struggling with similar issues. Sometimes knowing others have walked the same difficult path can make all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary for survival and eventual healing.